Just kidding. I crack myself up sometimes. Bienvenue à les Jeux olympiques du monde. Je m'appelle Rebecca. Je suis votre hôte aujourd'hui. Et désolée, je suis très, très désolée parce que nous sommes plus tard. I'm so sorry that we're late. Welcome to the Sales Olympics. This is day 8, jour 8. I'm so excited for today's topic. Man, we have had a crazy last couple of days with the ROI, COI, status quo, indecision, diagnosing things you don't know, metrics, business problems. We have covered a lot, and we are about to be at the halfway point. So today is officially today or tomorrow is the halfway point of the Sales Olympics. So we're going to cover a lighter topic today. Before I say that, I just want to say this. I don't know if anyone, Justin, Ian, James, I see everyone. Uh, I see everyone in the chat here. Are y'all watching Léon Marchand? Marchand. He's a French swimmer. I just want to tell y'all a little story that just made me really believe in humanity again. So he's basically a French swimmer. So the French are known for a couple of sports. They love judo. I almost said judo chop. Ping pong, big ping pong crowd over here. And but swimming is not typically one that they're really well known for. It's usually going to be the Aussies, United States, of course. And there is a French swimmer. His name is Léon Marchand. Marchand. Oh, excellent. Bienvenue, c'est une bête, Léon Marchand. So he is this French swimmer, and he is incredible. He is breaking all of these records. And the reason I wanted to bring him up is he's broken several records, Olympic records, that are Michael Phelps's records. And instead of Michael Phelps getting mad about that, or, oh, there's someone who, and Marchand really looked up to Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps, y'all have to go watch the videos of Michael Phelps, has an incredibly sweet friendship with him, is announcing all of his events. And there are some reaction videos. I have goosebumps thinking about it. Whenever he wins, and Phelps is screaming at the television to rooting for Marchand. And every single time when he goes breaststroke, because it's in France, when he comes out of the water, the entire crowd, it's deafening loud, cheers every time he comes up in the water during the breaststroke. So anyway, he was 2 days ago, he made history and he won the gold medal in the 200-meter butterfly. And then he turned right around, and within under an hour, he had to compete on the 200-meter breaststroke, and he won gold in that. Broke both of the Olympic records for that. And that's the first time that's ever been done in history because they were so close together. So anywho, I would definitely check him out. It's a really sweet story that he has. But the most incredible thing is watching how much Michael Phelps supports him and is like rooting for him and cheering him on and pushing him to break his own records. Like, that's just crazy. So anywho, I don't care who you are, gets me emotional just thinking about it, like the little friendship that they have. So anywho, we're going to jump into the topic today. The topic today is cold email. So I know that we've gone in hard conceptually for the last couple of days, so we're going to take a little bit of a breather, a little bit of a respire, Jean-Francois. And we are going to go over cold email. What are the different parts? How can you write a cold email in the most successful way? What are the words you should use and not use to get a hold of your prospect's attention? So let's go ahead and dive into lap 1. Lap 1, numéro 1. Okay, the first lap is, did they get it? So this is a topic that's not talked about enough, in my opinion. So there's only 5 questions really to cold email. Did they get it? Did they open it if they got it? Did they read it if they opened it? Were you relevant if they read it? And psychologically, did you take care of them along the way? Those are the only 5 questions in cold email that you have to answer for your prospect. And they're in that descending order of importance, how important they are. Because if they didn't even get the email, then it doesn't matter if you were relevant, like hypothetically. So point being, only 59% of cold emails actually wind up in the inbox, primary inbox for people. So a very overlooked problem, in my opinion, is going to be, did they actually get the email at all? So industry average open rate for email is 15 to 25. Industry average reply rate is 0.5 to 0.7%. And a huge contributor to that is email deliverability. So if you have less than a 50% open rate, if you're sitting out there and you have less than a 50% open rate, then there is some type of email deliverability issue that I would definitely suggest taking a look at. So there's a lot of different pieces to deliverability, but essentially there's 50% that's user behavior, meaning things that you can do as the rep to help with the email deliverability. And then the other half is from a technical setup perspective. How well are you set up? So the technical stuff will cover in about 10 seconds max. But I'm going to focus on the things that you can control if you're just a rep and you don't have access admin rights and you're on like basically a broader team. So the technical door key details are, I would check if you have a custom tracking link set up, meaning they're hodgepodging you together on the same domain with other clients if you're using a sales engagement provider, and your behaviors affect one another. So if you don't have a custom tracking link, then the sins of another company can basically affect you, is the punchline. DKIM, DMARC, SPF, I'd Google what all of those are, and I'd basically go through the process to get every one of those set up. And you can just run an email deliverability health score, a domain health score. So you go to Google, just type in email deliverability score. Lempire has an incredible one that can test your email deliverability based on your domain health. But from the technical perspective, that's going to cover about 50% of email deliverability is that technical setup. So I would just look into that. Lempire is a huge resource for email deliverability tips. Guillaume Mubish, their CEO, is an absolute wizard at deliverability. So I'd go and check out the resources on their site. The other half of deliverability is going to be down to user behavior. So what essentially they're tracking for, or what they're looking for, is non-human behavior. So you have to keep in mind that what they're protecting against is basically inbox experience. So if I'm Gmail, for instance, I don't want a lot of spam being defined as outside, vendor emails coming to my users, just simply put, because then they're going to blame their poor experience that they have a whole bunch of spam on me, basically, as a vendor. So they're looking for non-human behavior. So things that win you points are when people move you to another folder, add you as a contact, reply, forward, etc., open the email. Things that will hurt you are when they unsubscribe, delete without opening as a double doozy. And some of the tips that I would suggest, less links, the better. Meaning the more that you include links, the more likelihood that the person's going to basically go to another site, which Gmail doesn't like, right? They're like, it's risky. So they're going to fast track that and see if it's a broken path, like if it gives you a 404, for instance, or is it a verified site? So those will help you with links, but certainly with links, the fewer the better. So if you have, for instance, one that's hyperlinked to your phone number, one that's hyperlinked to your site, one that's hyperlinked to your Calendly, I would scrub out all the ones that you can possible. So how deliverability health works essentially is it's kind of like a diet, and it's a diet as a team. So think of that Office episode whenever they're all doing like a team diet. So my behaviors affect, James, for instance, and James' behaviors affect me, right? So if I do something good, it helps James. If James does something bad, then it hurts me essentially, and it's over time. So there's very few cases you can't bounce back from, but if you are getting, I'd say, less than a 2% open rate consistently over time, you're likely blacklisted, and I would look that up. But less links, the better. I would fast track them and see that they're verified sites, the no broken paths, shortened URLs are a no-no. GIFs will hurt you. Images won't hurt you unless over 4. No more than 50 emails a day. Same subject lines will kill you. Not just I have to have a different subject line for every email in the cadence, meaning if I send the same subject line to two different people, even if they're at two different companies, they're going to read that as non-human behavior. So no more than 50 emails, and I would try to vary every single time that you are sending a subject line. So something I include is personalization. You said your thing on blank, because every single time that you send multiple emails, heaven forbid your entire team is, it's gonna hurt you. I wouldn't send them all at the same time, like batch out 50 emails at 1 o'clock. Equidistant times are also going to hurt you. 1, 105, 110, 115, 120, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a number of words that will hurt you. Using social promo words in the subject line, for instance. So if I say your LinkedIn bio, for instance, in the subject line, it will read that likely as a social promo, and I'll put it over in the social promotions folder, as opposed to keeping it in your primary inbox. There's a number of words that will hurt you. Free is the most deleterious. Increase, solution, discount, 100% off, click here, limited time, problem, solution. I have a list of about 80 words. If you go to flipthescript.com under written, how to craft a stellar email, there's a number of different words there. But anytime you're using discount, trial, numbers, percent off, click here, free, etc., it's going to hurt your words. So the top tips are no more than 50 emails a day. Don't keep your subject line the same. Avoid those words and don't send them all at the same time. I like get nervous. And I know that it's a self, like, it really wasn't me who put it on me. It really was men who put it on me. In most cases, if I look uncomfortable, it's probably because of men. Something that men has done to me. But I still get nervous around that beeper. So that was email deliverability. It's for question number 1 of did they actually get the email? But it's an extremely important question on, did they actually receive the email? If you have anything less than a 50% open rate, then you have a deliverability problem for sure. So I trim out the links. I would go to, if you go to Flip the Script written on how to craft a stellar email, there's a list of words, problem, increase. I have a number of them pulled up here. Lose, cure, amazing, home, avoid, remove, chance, serious, compete. Oddly enough, one that is that will hurt you a lot is not spam. Don't delete, please read, this isn't junk. Those are huge email deliverability words that they're like, you have to keep in mind. There are 20,000 engineers at Google alone. I'd imagine 19,000 of them are after people like us. So I've seen on LinkedIn a lot, this is crazy talk, in my opinion. Y'all are getting Friday back. Look, we've done 8 days back to back. I feel like we're all family at this point. But I've seen a habit on LinkedIn, this was a couple of years ago, of like, it would hurt you if you included a link in the actual text of the post. So people are like, if you put a link to an outside source in your LinkedIn post, it's really going to hurt it. So put it in the comments. So all the influencers rush in. They're like, yeah, put it in the comments. It's brilliant. I'm like, maybe brilliant for like a week. But I'm like, it is astonishing to me. I'm like, there are roughly 20,000 employees at LinkedIn. Do you think not one of them figured out that you're going from the post to the comments with a link? As the virus adapts, so do the medications. So our behaviors, as they change, they just change along with us, of what they're scouring out there. So I guarantee you, it also hurts you to put a link in the comments on LinkedIn. I think that they're smart enough to figure that out. So point being, it's an ever-growing list. The Google engineers aren't going to scour out the list of words that of how they're telling that we're in sales and then publish it. So it's an ever-growing list. But I would think through, do people normally say this? Is this a commonly used word, like we miss you, for instance, in marketing? And if so, it's a high candidate for it's going to hurt from the deliverability perspective. Never ending list by Google's always, they're always adding something new, because we're always adding something new. So as the virus adapts, medication adapts. As the medication adapts, so does the virus. And we in sales are the virus. Okay, lap 2 of cold email. Second one is, did they open it? So this is going to come down to how pattern interruptive are you? So what I mean by that is your head is a system of patterns. Actually, I'm going to be so bold as to say you are a pattern. Meaning a personality, if you look it up in Webster, oddly enough, is defined as a pattern of interactions. So when you have someone with a personality disorder, like antisocial, borderline, narcissistic personality disorder, they just have an abnormal pattern, but it's still a pattern. So anytime that you basically have a pattern, you have a really fun device sitting at the bottom of your brain. It's called a reticular activation system. And basically think of it like a bouncer that's sitting at the bottom of your brainstem. And it's telling your head, your brain, what information to pay attention to. So you couldn't just walk down the street and absorb all of the stimulus at once. Your brain simply would implode. So you have around 16 to 20,000 thoughts per day. 95% of them are verbatim repeats from the day before. So you only have 5% net new. And basically what your brain is doing is it's surfacing to the top the information that you need to pay attention to. So the reticular activation system is a great example of why we get confirmation bias. The static point in our head is that something's true. And so we scour through the internet and we're letting through only the information that stacks up and basically confirms our bias. But in this case scenario for pattern interrupt, your brain is trying to pay attention to things that look abnormal, meaning they break the pattern. And the reason your brain is trying to pay attention to those is because it tries to figure out, okay, this thing looks not normal. So should I fight this thing? Should I run away from this thing? Or is this thing okay? That's what your brain needs to evaluate. So it's just a matter of priority. So Bluma Zygarnik, she's known for the Zygarnik effect. She was a Lithuanian psychologist based in Berlin at one point. And she was noticing how basically waiters and waitresses moved around the floor in terms of how they were taking care of tabs. She started asking them to recall the tabs that they had during the day. And she found something interesting. The thing that she found was that people could more often recall the tabs that hadn't been closed out versus the tabs that had. So she started an interesting study with two groups of people. She had both groups of people go through 20 tasks, execute 20 tasks. Both groups of people she asked to recall what tasks they had to do. But for the second group, she interrupted three of the tasks. And she found that you're 15 to 17 times more likely to remember the tasks that they didn't finish versus the ones that were interrupted versus the ones that they could take to completion. So when it comes to your brain and cold email, it is telling your brain to only pay attention to the ones that look abnormal. So if you go, do me a quick favor. If you're listening to this either live or, you're out there, Justin, do me a favor. If you go to your inbox and start to look through LinkedIn, look through your inbox, and start to study the types of things that people say to you. What do salespeople say, for instance? So there's a number of phrases that we use within when we're essentially selling. I'm not going to go into too many of them until next section, but there's a certain amount of words that we use. And I would try to avoid using those words. And the rules of the game are that you have to use any kind of words other than that. So a couple of good examples, and I'm going to rattle off in a minute what the rest of them are, but just following up, just circling back, just bubbling to the top of your inbox. Happy Monday. Hope you and your kids are safe during these uncertain times. So when your brain reads those, hope you're well. Let's see if anyone can tack up any in the chat. Phrases that people say, yeah, hi there, blank. I'm the number one blank. We work with leaders we work with leaders just like you who struggle with blank. Point being, You have to interrupt that pattern, because if you don't, their brain is going to say, oh, it's a sales email. And let me see if anyone will jump in the chat. When you come in on Monday and your inbox implodes, what do you do with your emails? If anyone can describe the behavior, what do? You come in Monday. Yeah, Justin already hit it. I start making this a swipe file of crap that you can clean out of your inbox, right? So the most evergreen coach when it comes to cold email, not to destroy my credibility, is not me or anyone. It's you and your brain. So when you're deleting emails over the next, yeah, Kirsten, look at that. Delete. I mass select and delete. Savage. I love that, James. Feels so cleaning. So when you're deleting emails over the next few weeks, pay attention to, if you want to learn a little bit more, just pay attention to what was the text they said? What's the thing they said in the subject line that made you know it was an email, a sales email? When you logged in and you saw, we have mutual connections. I'd like to mutually connect and add beneficial value. And you're like, salesperson. And you either delete it or keep moving. How did you know that? And those are the words you can't use. So the good news is there's 600,000 words upwards in the English language. And the ones salespeople use are about 250 of them. So for personalization, if you just say something like, you said blank, your article on blank, you'll get an open. Mass select and delete. I love that, James. Hey, James, I can't remember. Didn't you run an ultra? I know that you ran a marathon, Houston Marathon, but didn't you run an ultra, I think, back in the day? Not to call you out, but I think that happened. I think an ultra is 100 miles for everyone who doesn't know that. Yikes, right? Good for him if he did. Okay, let's go into lap 3. Did they read it? Fancy bottle. Gianluca, my nephew Ben gave this to me. He's like, Ampy's in France now, so she needs a fancy cup. So this is the cup, the fancy cup that Ampy lives because she's in, or uses because she lives in fancy Paris. I did an April 50 miler. Oh my goodness, 50 miles. Okay, I'm exhausted thinking about it. Okay, the third piece. Did they actually read it? So this also is a topic that I don't think that gets enough play, essentially, on did they actually read it. So I saw an interesting stat. Someone pointed out, they're like, the average human being spends 9 seconds reading an email. So you need to optimize for what they're reading in those 9 seconds. I'm like, I don't think that's a takeaway at all. What I'd be after is getting them to read it for more than 9 seconds, not planning on 9 seconds. So there are a number of different ways that your brain essentially reads an email. So they did a number of different studies, basically Nielsen Norman group, a number of different studies on how you read an email. They put on eye tracking, like eye goggles onto people, which is very interesting, très intéressant for dweebs like me. And they tracked how people read emails. There's a number of different patterns: Z, spotted, layered cake, F-shaped email. Common misdiagnosis is that F-shaped email is the best pattern to write it in. Actually, it's statistically the worst. It increases scanning, not comprehension, and doesn't increase reply rates. So just an FYI. But how someone reads an email, some of the tips that I would say is you have to make it from an aesthetic view easy for them to read the email. So I wouldn't combine 2 sentences into a paragraph. I would do 4 to 5 sentences max within the email. There are some emails that were getting a lot of hits because they were only 1 line or 2 line. I had to guess why. It's because it's pattern interrupt. Most emails are super long. It's pattern interrupt. The more acronyms that you can use, the better. So like, AKA, for instance, or COI for our email yesterday, for anyone who got it, or ROI. Anytime that you use something that looks abnormal to the brain, it's going to make it more readable. So an acronym will help. Any kind of different punctuation. So like an ellipses, you'll notice there's a lot of ellipses in our emails, and that's to get you to the next line, basically. That your brain will stop and it will read it. Or any contractions will help you. Or dashes will help you. Quotation marks will help you. Hyphens will help you. So punctuation is your friend for sure within cold email. Company name. I would use my company name no more than once, and the lower down the email is going to be the better. The minute you hit your company name, they're going to go sales rep and they're going to log out. Within your signature, also, if it were me, I would trim out all of this stuff. There's website, marketers across the globe are going to kill me. Website, phone number, role. Well, let me ask y'all a question. If y'all can jump into the chat. How many times over the last, let's go, I don't know, year, have you gotten an email from a salesperson and have you called, looked at the email, looked up their number, and called them back on their number? Cold email was sent to you. You saw their number. You didn't respond to the email, but you called them back from the phone number that was in their signature. If y'all could go into the chat, yes or no. Yes, I have done that over the last 6 months, or no, I haven't done that. But within the signature, I would suggest making it as tight as possible. They don't really care about your role. They don't even really care about what your company name is. Look at this. Never. Right. So people will be like, well, Beck, what if they want to call me? It says LinkedIn user, but I think that's Federico. James laugh out loud. Yeah. I'm like, that never happens. They're like, well, Beck, what if they want to call me? I'm like, first of all, you're a salesperson. They never want to call you. They don't. Okay. Them's the facts. But if they want to get in touch with you, they're reading your email, so they can just email you back. Right? So any links that add to that allure are going to hurt. But I would make the subject line, the signature as low as possible. So I'd mention the company as few times as possible, lower down the list, and any of the following words I would try to avoid. I was looking at how much time. So these are the 250 words that I've cross-compared and studied that are the most common within cold email. They'll get someone to log in and say, this is a cold email, and they'll log out. So the rules are, so to speak, you can't use any of these, because if you see any of these, they think you're a salesperson, and they delete the email. Hope you're well. Happy Thursday. I know you're busy, but to see if we're a fit, I'd love to. I'll be brief. Quick question. Just checking in, just following up, just circling back, or the number one. We help blank do blank. If this is relevant to you, did you get my last email? Did you get my last voicemail? Cheers, pick your brain, virtual coffee you meet. I don't want to waste your time. I was really impressed by your profile. Chat, we work with leaders just like you. Quick call, quick connect, let's connect. ROI, bubbling to the top of your inbox. I'd love to network, just touching base. Just wondering, excuse my professional persistence, 15 minutes, SEO, congrats, looking forward to it. I notice you're growing. How can I get some time on your calendar? Top priorities in 2024. My name is blank. I'm with blank and we do blank. Synergy, mutual connections. What would blank mean to your business? Is there a better person to connect with? My CEO sent me your way. Hope you're safe during these uncertain times. I'd be happy to. I've emailed you 9 times and I've never heard back. Connect. And here's a list of things that I think might be happening with you. Can you tell me which one it is so I can just update my CRM? Any of those, if you use them, they log in and they're like salesperson and they log out. So from a readability perspective, I would be after acronyms, punctuation, 4 to 5 lines max. Don't combine 2 sentences into 1 paragraph. Only 1 company name mentioned. Lower down the email, the better, and avoid those words. So you might be sitting out there asking, well, what words do I use then? Again, There's 600,000 words. So you can get at the same gist. You just can't use those words. There goes some of my email out of inbox. You just can't use those words finitely. So let's give an example. Let's see if y'all can jump into the chat and give me an example back. Let's say I wanted to say, I saw an Olympian earlier, which I did. Last night I was running and there was an Olympian out there. I run really late and they high-fived me while I was running. It was a pretty cool moment. Felt very full house. But let's say the sentence is, I saw an Olympian earlier. What's another way that you could say that exact same concept, but not using those words? I saw, like, you can keep Olympian, but what's another way that you could say that? If you could jump into the chat, instead of I saw an Olympian earlier, what's another way that you could say that? See if anyone can. I bet you paste. Yeah, my pace did jump up. Stick to the exercise, James. I'm just kidding. I bumped into. Perfect, Mike. Brilliant. I bumped into an Olympian earlier. I ran into an Olympian earlier. I met an Olympian earlier. I came across an Olympian earlier. So there's a number of different ways that you could say, say that. I witnessed, I bumped into. So here are just a few examples for this. Yeah, I shouldn't have gone. I observed. I noticed. You're never going to believe it. But guess who popped up on my path last night? It was an Olympian, right? Look at Jean-Francois. No, it's interesting, by the way. I stalked an Olympian earlier. A little bit of a different tone there, Kirsten. But speaking of French emails, now people, because my location is updated to Paris, for the last about year, I've been here for about almost 2 years, coming up on 2 years. And I now get emails, cold emails sent to my inbox in French. And I'm like, oh, this is how you say looking forward to it in French. This is how you say, I hope you're well. Bubbling to the top of your inbox. Anywho, because Jean-Francois said, rencontré. I became best friends. I hung out. So the point is this, and we're going to go into lap 4 and close out. There's a million different ways that you could say something. I noticed that I'm on the ban list for Olympians. So there's a million different ways you can say things. So anything that's on the list that I just mentioned is not, you have to stay outside of that. It's not because I'm trying to be mean. It's because this is how people think. If I say we're mutual connections, I'm glad that we connect and can add mutual beneficial value, and let's have a coffee chat, e-greet, looking forward to it, assumptive close, cheers, back. You're done. So when I open these emails, and it's so interesting to me, and where it's specifically deleterious is the first line. That's the most valuable real estate of your line in any reading pattern, no matter which one they were in. And that's where it's usually used. Hope you're well, you're done. If you say hope you're well on your first line, you're finished. There's no email after that. You're done. Because they're like, salesperson, don't know who it is. They're going to log out of the email. Okay, let's go into lap 4. Le quatrième lap. Jean-Francois, I don't know how to say lap. Comment je peux dire lap? What's the word for lap? Okay. Were you relevant? Were you relevant, and psychologically you take care of them along the way? So this is question 4, because we spent a lot of time on relevance in the past episodes. So were you relevant? There's basically a couple pieces to relevance. Were you relevant to the metrics that they're after? They're leading, and lagging indicators. Were you putting I knew that. Yeah. I didn't know that, but it makes sense. That's what LAP is. So for relevance, are you relevant to the metrics that they want to solve towards? Lagging, leaning, and leading. So for instance, people always plug AI and Chat GPT to me. But when I go to Chat GPT, if I say, what are the metrics for an SDR? They say closed won. I'm like, no, Chat GPT, it's not. That's for sales. Point being, I make sure that I am bulletproof in terms of this is a list of metrics that they care about. The second thing is, are you relevant to the triggers? Meaning the things that have happened to them in the market that have nothing to do with your marketing team, or the things that have happened in relationship to your marketing team. So I call these two categories. Postbound is something, an engagement with the marketing item that wasn't becoming a hand raiser. I call it postbound. Comes from playing basketball, in between the top of the key and the basket is a post, right? So it's not truly inbound. It's not truly outbound. So content downloads, webinar registrants, event attendees, freemium, blog subscribers, newsletter, engage with a social post on your company's social media. This is anything to do with the marketing team is one type of trigger. But the other types of triggers are what I call bridge bound. Anything to do with an action that they took in the market or the market took on them, but it has nothing to do with your marketing team. There are 5 buckets to it. I don't have time to go into this. If you want more information, if you go to flipscript.com, written in the comprehensive encyclopedia of sales plays, there's 139 in there. But people who requested a demo and didn't schedule one, people who scheduled a demo and then no-showed, people who closed lost and they're up on renewal, people who, companies that IPO'd, companies that moved headquarters, companies that acquired someone, companies that were acquired, indicators of a problem, like they just had a financial statement release. They just bought an adjacent vendor. They just bought socks, running socks. So I think that they might want running shoes. So I'm like, this play makes sense. Or common relationship. They share a common VC with you. They interacted with one of your C-suite. Point being, there's a lot of triggers. I would bake those into the play. The personalization that you add is on top of that, right? So you can auto that part of it. What you cannot auto is personalization and the hook. But that's the second part to relevance is, are you relevant to their triggers? But the third most important is, are you relevant to the unknown problems that they didn't know that they had? So Justin came up with a great question. Can we put observations on the first line? So the fastest way to get a hold of anyone is to notice a problem that they didn't know about themselves in specific. So especially double points if it's not something they had anything to do with. So a lot of times I'll personalize, meaning I'll go through the demo request process for my prospects and then through with their competitors so I can chart the difference, because usually they didn't know what the process was. I found a number of different Whoppers there. I would say about 40% of the time, about 60% of the time, I find some kind of malfunction with the form. I'd say about 30 or 40% of the time, you can't request a demo at all. And that's a huge unknown for them that was hurting them. So if you want to go relevance only and you don't want to do personalization, I hear a lot of people talk about personalization in the market. Every time I read it, I'm like, that's not true personalization. Name is not personalization. Role is not personalization. Industry is not personalization. Personalization is only one-to-one. True personalization. I saw that you said this thing. That will interrupt the pattern. Right? But I would focus on in the first, if you're like, screw back, I don't want to personalize my emails. Keep in mind, you can't send any more than 50 a day. Otherwise, you're going to cut your nose off to spite your face with deliverability. But I digress. If you want to go relevance only, yes, I think a stat is a great place to start. I'm sure that you know this, already know this, but the industry average open rate is 15 to 25%. And anything less than 50% in the high likelihood of an email deliverability problem. I know you don't know me, but if you do me a favor, if you go back and check your open rate, if it's anything less than blank, if you give me a shot Thursday at 2 to unpack a couple of tips of how you can prove it, whether you want to continue the conversation or not. If you're anything more than blank, no problem. Honestly, I'll probably ask you you can take it however you want there. Either way, and I do the push pull. Either way, huge fan of your team, blah, blah, blah. The good juju language should be in the push pull. So point being, for the relevance, if you're going to go relevance only, meaning it's a one-to-many email only, heaven forbid, then yes, a stat is a great place to start. And I would ask them to compare themselves to that stat. And if they're in this bracket, they're fine. And it should be genuine. But if they're in this bracket, then if they give you a shot to talk, blah, blah, blah. So that is going to be relevance. Psychologically, I left myself 30 seconds. A great book to read is Games People Play by Eric Berne. Robert Keegan also wrote a book about basically the 5 different selves that you have. These are the 2 most formative books for me. But the punchline is this. You have 3 ego states, child, parent, and adult. And if you're in child or parent, you can be emotional ally to the person. So don't command people to do things like I just did. And don't correct them in an email. A couple of other psychological resources or people that I would look up. Attachment theory is huge. Basically, you have 4 different attachment styles: avoidant, anxious, avoidant, and secure. And this is how you attach to work, friends, personal relationships, etc. I would definitely study up on that. Interdependence theory is another huge one. And this is basically you evaluate 6, Games People Play. Beyond Games and Scripts and Games People Play by Eric Berne are both amazing books. But he basically was known as the father of transactional analysis. And he studied the transaction that people were having by the way of conversation. And he noticed with some of his patients that in some cases they would see someone as a peer. Some cases they would see them as an authority. In some cases they would see them as someone who answered into them. So you basically digitally have 3 different ego states. And parent ego state has 2 sides, nurturing and controlling. So, and both goals are to take care of the child ego state. So I'm either going to take care of you by disciplining you, or I'm going to take care of you by being like, no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. The child ego state, you have natural and adaptive. Both sides are trying to get the attention from the parent ego state. So positive attention is natural. They make jokes, blah, blah. So like, here's a great example. And then I promise I'm going to close out for the day. I see a lot of stuff online where they're like, this is what my client just got from working with me. And it's an email. They're like, they got an email back from McDonald's. They wrote them this, video or this song or whatever. They sent them a GIF or, they wrote them a song with the lyrics about what they do. And I'm like, that's fine. But after I watched the video, I'm like, yeah, I still wouldn't be clear of what problem you solved. So every time I see one of these cases, and it's very interesting to me because they're always trumpeting like, this is what I do for my clients. Everyone should become a client. And I'm like, but in the response, I want y'all to check it out. It's very interesting and see if you notice the same thing. It's always like the CMO of McDonald's or whatever it is, responding and being like, really great email, comma, and there's always the same next word. Let me see if anyone can guess what the next word is. They're like, great email. I'm going to send it over to my SDR team. This was an amazing way to reach out. Thanks for the personalization note. And they say, comma, and there's one sticky word that's in every one of these responses that I see that's online. I want to see if anyone can guess it. And then I promise I'll let y'all off the hook. Very, very dangerous word. And so basically the punchline is, I'm like, in every one of these cases, the person didn't actually book a meeting. They're like, funny video. They're like, oh, that was a great technique. Great personalization email. Jenna got it. Look at Jenna. Jenna, I miss you, first of all. Hi. Yep, Jenna got it. James got it. Cependant, that's however, or but, mate. They always say but. And every one of these emails that people are posting, they're like, all my clients get these responses. The person's like, awesome email, comma, but I'm not the right person. Awesome email, comma, but we don't have budget. I'm the right person, great email. I'm going to send this on to my whole team, comma, but it's not the right time. No interest in the product, blah, 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 blah. And it doesn't really matter what's after the but. So I pay attention to the North Star goal. I didn't book a meeting. So it's awesome that you help someone get a response from the CMO at McDonald's, but there's still no meeting with the CMO of McDonald's. All there is a nice response. You went into child ego state, you made a joke, they went into parent nurturing ego state, and they're like, really funny joke, honey. But they don't see the adult business use case of why they should work with you. Right? So I would be careful about going any kind of jokey pattern, any kind of child ego state play of making them a song, because you're usually going to get the but response on the back end. This is really great, but so people are either going to pay you in nice words or they're actually going to buy. And then nice words afterwards if you do well. But if anyone's leading up with you're a really great person, I'm like, there's a comma but afterwards. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, comma but. I love this email, comma but. And there's objection on the back end. So anywho, from a psych view, Eric Berne, Games People Play, Beyond Games and Scripts, Social Aggression Theory, Interdependence Theory, Attachment Theory. There's a list. I'll send out a list of people. Todd Peterson, it has a great YouTube channel. Todd Grande is great YouTube channel on a bunch of different psychological stuff. I would study the 200 neurotransmitters in your brain, the 10 different types of personality disorders, the 4 types of introverts is a good one, 4 types of narcissism, the dark triad with Machiavellianism, and it gets really interesting. But if you're only going to read one, Games People Play really helped me because it helped me know if I say, don't push this button. James, don't push this button. Jenna, don't push this button. I should expect a very riled up reaction. Let's see if they can guess what the reaction is on the back end. But anytime you command someone to do something or you're joking around, they're basically going to swing. They might be nice about it, but the meeting's not going to happen. So that is everything. Thank you so much for coming today. Today is vendredi, Friday. I am headed to, if y'all want to, I might take a video and put it online tonight. So I'm going to swimming tonight in a couple of hours, and I'm doing gymnastics tomorrow, and then I'm going to swimming again on Sunday. So I will send y'all videos, but I'm like, I've got to see Marchand close this out. Do not respond to my email. So the interesting thing that Eric Berne goes into is, even if you're doing reverse psychology, it's still a game. And if they notice it, they start to play a game back, which is, but to your point, if I want someone to go right, if I command them to go left would be my best place to start if I were in the game centricity bill. But adult ego state is always going to win. You're going after things that they don't know. That's always going to be the one that gets their attention and gets a book meeting. That's everything. Thanks so much for coming. This was day 8, jour 8. Jeux Olympiques du Monde. Thanks everyone for coming. Tomorrow, if you want to tune in, we are going into the 3 steps to a discovery call that make a buyer buy. So yes, I know this misdiagnosis information and on and on. However, how do I use it within discovery? What are the 3? Merci, bon weekend, Vic. Merci beaucoup. Bon weekend à vous. So tomorrow we'll be going into the 3 steps of a discovery call. How can you find things that they don't know? What are the 3 steps and how do you execute them within discovery? If not, I will see you at la prochaine semaine next week. And I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. If you want to tune into the Olympics tonight for swimming, I'm going to be wearing a bright green hoodie, like bright neon yellow hoodie. So if you want to look for me in the crowd, I'll be there tonight, and then I'll be at swimming on Sunday night too. That was everything. Thanks so much. Everyone have a great weekend. I will see you tomorrow. I will see you next week. And as always, toujours, merci beaucoup pour tout. Et à demain. Au revoir pour maintenant. Bye bye, y'all.